to make sure microphones and stuff are working. Wait, I don't think I put them in the other guy.
Okay. Oh, it's seeing at least one. Oh,
Yeah, he's. And if anything, it should help with microphone.
yeah. All right, I think it's functioning. My computer audio is off. Did I turn that on? I don't remember. Did I turn this on? The computer audio?
Yeah, because then we want to be able to hear.
Okay.
It should be good. Minimize in case we need to bring it up real quick.
Okay.
There he is. Paradise.
Is that
Turn it on, sorry.
Oh no, hurry.
All right. They are friends now.
They are friends. Oh, I see they're blinking. Their eyes are blinking. They're blinking at each other. They're making eyes at each other. Are you flirting, owls? There we go. Okay.
We got sounds through the owls. Always good sign.
Okay. Hey. We'll see how this works when people come in. But yeah, this is nice. A double owl system.
Now, you have a minute. Our history room is now available again.
Okay.
So I didn't know if you wanted to maybe think about like next time we could go in there. I know. Hey, how are you?
You guys have any support vehicle?
I'm not worried about now. We had anybody.
That's good. Well, yeah, you're on the hill.
Yeah,
There are tornadoes.
no, not here. Well, they did confirm that the tornado went through.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually was out in Venango Township yesterday,
Yeah,
and I thought there'd be so much debris, and there really wasn't. The supervisor was saying it was really localized.
Yeah.
Barn that got trashed.
tornado was, the tornado was only there for like 4 minutes,
Yeah.
which is still crazy. A lot better than like it goes down for like a half an hour and going across the whole county.
Yeah. But at our next bylaw meeting, so I actually was out in Venango Township to talk to them about Cape Bridge, which is a structurally deficient lithium bridge.
Yeah.
So at the next local use fee meeting, they're going to come
Oh, good.
and do a presentation and request funds. So it'll be the first time using that new process.
See how it works.
Yeah, so hopefully it goes okay. Yeah. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
For the next meeting.
Good.
So, yes, yeah.
Hi, Tim. How are you? Good. How are you doing? Doing good.
Hello. You're double out.
Oh my, wow, we're not gonna get away with anything now.
Well, this guy was getting sporadic, so he needed a friend. So he comes out of retirement whenever
Nice.
we're trying it out. Hopefully it'll help with like microphone, because it'll basically, we'll have 2 microphones in here. Yeah.
But it's good.
All right, I'm gonna grab my stuff. I'll be back.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome to do anything,
Bye.
and then, So. But they recognize your service.
How are you today, Tim?
How are you?
You recognize your service.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a long week already.
It has.
Hey, guys.
Did you have any damage? Oh,
No, we didn't. Oh,
good.
you too, how are you?
Good. How are you?
It's good.
How's the little one?
Oh, he's adorable. Yeah, he's 15.
Hi, Bill.
He's getting into it. And he loves to dig.
Oh.
We got a fan box and he can spend hours in that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's what, a year?
Yeah, he's 15 months.
15.
Yeah, he's 15 months.
Yeah, I just got back from the doctor. We did right.
Yeah, it's, yeah. I mean, I'm where it tend to be. So I was like, when I saw that, it go back, look at them, you know, and a similar. Well, that's that and then it's the people. And whether the hardest. Ear to ear, it's actually not ear to ear, but now. And that's where- That's good. One of the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues. I just thought, but yeah, I saw that and I was like, oh, wow, okay, that kind of makes more sense now, what they were thinking. So far, everything.
Usually is, yeah.
They always used to,
Yeah.
maybe.
Oh, well,
Thanks. Yeah.
no problem.
I'm not getting any sound.
We are recording. We are recording. I just recording for the live. We're recording. Looking at that. And I was trying to figure out the problem. Yep.
Tomorrow night?
You go to the. Good. Yeah, no,
Also,
Yeah.
let's see. Bathrooms, someone else.
Matt, just to let you know, Jessica's getting ready to find you, and she's happy to talk about it. That's really.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
So if you.
I mean, if you want, I can walk through the presentation or, you know.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's like, sure, just give it.
Trying to get around all the rain.
I can, if there are any questions like that you don't know the answer to, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Like I said, I just wasn't there for all the
I
different
can hear many
discussions. so-
people talking at once.
Okay, maybe I'll mute it.
Okay, good morning, everyone. We will call the June 11th MPO Coordinating Committee meeting to order. At this time, do we have any public comment on agenda items?
This is Freda Tepfer. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have previously submitted some comments, but I'm going to go ahead and read them. So as to the bylaws revision, why was the representative from the DEP discontinued? Where is the representative with expertise in environmental concerns? DEP was previously represented. And one change that wasn't going on before is the DEP does now have a member who represents environmental justice. That's their job. Maybe consider having that person on rather than removing them altogether. MPMS 111147. Does this include sidewalks and traffic signals with APS? MPMS 72455. What kind of environmental review was done concerning the plan? And like I said, Emily has a list of all these MPSs concerning the plan to pave stream bed with concrete. MPMS 113882, West 26th Street from Chestnut to Cumberland. Prior project included signal upgrades along West 26th that went east and west, but excluded Peach and West 26th. This intersection is near schools, heavy pedestrian use areas, and lacks an accessible pedestrian signal. This intersection should be upgraded to include an APS. It is unfathomable that this was left out of the prior project. The person from the city said it's because those traffic lights are cycled to provide a pedestrian interval, but that's of no. Excuse me, why is somebody speaking?
Thank you.
MPMS 116741 SR5 bridge over 6 Mile Creek. Encourage the addition of sidewalk. MPMS 121506 safe routes to parks and schools. Urge the addition of sidewalks where lacking around all city parks. Provide painted crosswalks at east and west ends of Baldwin Park, Burst and Geist, so that cars will not block pedestrians' access to park, north and south. Ensure that Raspberry Street from south of 18th Street be improved to provide, this is definitely a school route, to provide sidewalks that are safe for all pedestrians to use, including an accessible railroad crossing and improved maintenance of sidewalks by Waste Management, who owns the adjacent property, and other commercial establishments. This plan has been described as part of the state streets for Safe Streets for Erie and includes traffic signal upgrades on West 18th Street ending at Cherry Street. It is imperative, just like at West 26th and State Street, that the signal at Liberty and 18th Street be upgraded to include an APS signal. Makes no sense to me why it would have been left out. MPMS 724440, Bridge over East Branch, French Creek, project and preliminary engineering. Please consider including a sidewalk in this project. MPMS 109625, reconfiguration of West 26th Street interchange with I-79. Please explore options for providing sidewalks or very limited opportunities for getting across I-79. The EMTA is apparently finally going to be starting their operation planning process, which would include public involvement, and there needs to be adequate time to develop the public participation notification. I haven't seen any yet. And I did not know, but a prior member of the EMTA board who was, and maybe was the only rider on the board, is not on the board anymore. The county and the city and any other appointing jurisdictions should look for an opportunity to ensure that there is at least one rider who is a member of the EMTA board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate it. I'm sure, concerns regarding bylaws will be addressed later, when Matt gives us an update. Is there any other public comment?
Oh, one other thing, I don't know how to turn my volume off. It won't let me do that. So Emily, if you can turn my volume off.
We'll do that for you.
Yeah, we can do. Thanks, Freda.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the March 12th meeting? Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Was that an opposed or just in favor? Somebody came in late.
It was an aye.
All right, motion carries. Okay, moving on to Transportation Improvement Program update. Julia Cornell, I believe I saw us online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, so I just had one item I wanted to cover. It's on the informational items part. Yeah, so amendment number 1. This was an amendment to add protect funds to the PE and construction phases of the Scour Critical Bridge Group, the Erie 2025 project, in federal fiscal years 2025 and 2026. The source of funding was the Protect Reserve Central Office line item. And I just wanted to share, so this is an informational item, but I wanted to share it. But it won't require a vote by the MPO due to being completed by the statewide section. So it's a informational item. But that was the only one I wanted to cover. If anyone has any questions.
Any questions of Julia? Okay, thank you, Julia.
Thanks.
Emily, do you want to give us some updates on the 2025-28 TIP amendment?
Yes, so we did cover this at the TAC meeting, but I just want to go over it at the coordinating committee meeting as well, to put in the official record that there were 2 email ballot votes from the coordinating committee. Both were affirmative. One was for a local federal aid route in Wesleyville, and the other was to add transit funds to the TIP. So those both passed unanimously and are now officially in the record of the coordinating committee.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. And did you want to take the TIP update process or was Courtney?
We're going to tag team it,
All right.
but I can let Courtney kick it off.
All right, so, in the last month, we've received financial guidance for the 2027 to 2038 TIP update. For the first 4 years combined in Erie, so that would be from 2027 to 2030. It's $109.2 million is what currently we'll be working with for the first 4 years. That includes federal and state funds. That includes the breakdown of highway and bridge funds, as well as safety and congestion reduction funds that we might have, our carbon reduction funds that we are going to be getting. Our time frame moving forward We're working, we just had a kickoff meeting with the MPO with Emily on Monday. We are going to be, pushing to have a list of projects, hopefully out to everyone before the August TAC meeting. So that way then everyone can start looking like we did last year or last tip update. We thought it worked well to have the sheet with the links to take you to the project locations. The locations for bridges as well as the locations with the limits for all of the non-bridge projects. Give you guys, opportunity to look at it for that TAC meeting, and then we will be discussing it at TAC and the coordinating committee meeting in September. Hopefully we'll work through all of the questions and everything everyone has. We will look for everyone to be okay with the list of projects at the November, December TAC coordinating committee meeting. And then we would move into doing all of the back end reporting that needs to happen so that we can get into public involvement next spring with the votes next May, June, for it to officially go in next spring. And that, I think, was what you were going to talk about was the request sheet, right?
Yes, yes. So starting this tip update, I created a tip request form. So if, I know there've been questions in the past about, okay, well, how do we get a project on the tip? How do we get it funded with tip funds? And the process is to go through the LRTP, but we haven't had like an official request form in the past. So if anyone wants a project considered to go onto the tip to be eligible for this $109.2 million, there is a form that now you can fill out and email to me, Courtney, and Sarah to submit a project. So this form does, it's very short. It's one page, just description of the project and whether it's in the long range transportation plan, whether it's in the TYP, and some other factors that we have to screen all tip projects for, like performance measures. And if you don't know if the project would, like fulfill a pavement performance measure, you don't have to indicate that. It's just all projects have to be screened for that. So we will have to screen it anyways. So if you know that a project would contribute to one of those performance measures, that would definitely be a positive for that project. But for example, like a pavement project, just paving a dirt road, a locally owned dirt road will not contribute to that target because it's not on the NHS system. It has to be on the NHS system. So if you don't know what that is, just need to basic. But these are the factors that everything has to be screened for. And if you could get it to me and Courtney and Sarah as soon as possible, we can give you a written response to whether something is even eligible for TIP funding. And you can have something in writing that says, you know, why this could be considered, or even why it could be considered. And specifically, it really does need to be in the long range transportation plan already. That is a big, very important factor already. But if it is, please submit the forms by email. I will email this form out to all MPO members after this meeting, so everyone has it. It's a fillable form that can be returned. I did put a deadline of July 11th, so 1 month. Everyone has 1 month to submit these forms by email so that everyone has a chance to look at them. And at this point, it's only MPO members that are eligible to submit these forms. So MPO voting members can submit these forms. And if a municipality organization is here that isn't an MPO voting member, please talk to others and coordinate.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. Was there gonna be an update on Conco as well? We're gonna go over that now, or was that further down?
In the local use fee section.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, which, we'll get to in a second. Emily, I think,
Yes,
I
really
hope
quick.
everybody filled out their survey.
We have 15 responses.
Right?
So not everybody. We have
How many is that up from? That's up quite a bit in the last.
Yes, since 2.
Yes, yeah, we had, so.
Emily, some of us older people don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
okay, that's okay. That's okay. But we're keeping it open for 1 more week. So you still have a chance.
Oh,
If you haven't done it, you have 1 week to fill out our alternative fuel survey. To indicate what type of non-gasoline fuels you may need and where those charging locations should be.
And it takes
Like 5 minutes.
Few minutes,
I mean,
yeah.
It's very short. It's very
great. Yeah. We'll hook you up before you leave today, all right?
yeah.
Was that?
We'll have you do it before you leave today.
Just told Jessica I better go talk to Tender.
Okay, then moving on, agenda item number 6, subcommittees. Does Matt have them? Matt here?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
But it's only a few here, but she pretty much provided the breakdown here of the update. We haven't had a meeting in a good while. We're waiting on Sherwood Hill Road Bridge to go out for bid, but not, I'll get to that in a second, but it's not going out in bid for a while. So quick updates, the Taco Boulevard Bridge is under construction. If I can talk here, it should be completed by July 14th. There will be a ribbon cutting ceremony. The date and time will be emailed out to the members whenever that's actually set in stone. Himrod Road Bridge is under construction. The new beams have been manufactured. On-site work will start by the end of July with substantial completion by the end of 2025. Sheridan Hill Road Bridge in Elk Creek is ready to go out to bid, but it can't be completed by the end of 2025, so the supervisors are waiting waiting to advertise until 2026. So our next subcommittee meeting will be June 25th at 10 a.m. at Erie County Planning. Emily told me there's a paved road bridge that's up for consideration, so they'll be there to present. And then there's been a lot of action on construction from the 3 bridges that on Old 99, the original 3 that were our match for this program are currently under construction, be completed by the end of this year. And I think that's all I have for today. So, if anyone's interested, June 25th at 10 a.m. at Erie County Planning will be the next meeting.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Moving on to 6B in the agenda, bylaws. I know the subcommittee is, reviewing the current bylaws and
Yeah,
possibly making some recommendations. This is just, that's all this is right now is recommendations. There is no vote today or anything like that, so
that's correct.
you'll give us an update and then we can have discussion.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Like Tim said, the subcommittee sat down and looked at the bylaws. We made some suggested changes. As of right now, they're just a proposal. This is just a draft. Everybody just got a chance to see them when Emily sent them last week. They were sent out to everyone for their comments, for their input. So I'm just going to run through a brief presentation, highlighting some of the changes. We can then have any discussion that you want. I would encourage anybody that has any requests for changes to please make sure you send an email to Emily so that we can kind of record all of those. And everything can be reviewed together. You know, I know that we'll get a lot of different comments and it'd be easy if we can compile all those together and take a look. So really quickly, I will just go through this. I do want to thank Emily for all of her hard work. I know that there was a subcommittee, but you know, she's done a lot of the hard work of making the changes for us and making this presentation as well that I'm going to give here. So I will just run through it with you real quick. Just some highlights of some text changes that we made to the document. Originally, you know, this group was called the Erie Area Transportation Study, or Erie MPO. We formally changed the name to the Erie County Metropolitan Planning Organization. In the document, many times it would just say MPO. We specifically separated out whether they were talking about the coordinating committee or the technical advisory committee to make that clear. As far as compliance, the original bylaws said that we would all just decide whenever plans needed to be updated, but we've changed that text to say that they be updated as required by whether it's FHWA or PennDOT or whatever agency to make sure that we're in compliance. Additional changes that we did, or that we're proposing, I should say, are term limits on officers. Or currently, there are no term limits. An officer can, you know, serve for as long as they continue to be voted in. We've proposed a 5-year term limit for officers, just to help turn over and get some new blood and some new ideas. Originally, the chairperson vote, or I should say currently, the chairperson's vote only counts during a tie. But we're proposing a change where their vote would count, but they would be the last to vote. That's kind of an old Robert's Rules of Order thing that's kind of gone by the wayside, where the chairman only breaks ties and doesn't vote. As far as non-voting memberships, right now we have Federal Highways, the Federal Transit Authority, Federal Air, is it FAA, Airline, Aviation, yeah, thank you. The DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development, the Department of Environmental Protection, and the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development. We're proposing to limit our non-voting membership to Federal Highways, the Transit Authority, and the Department of Community and Economic Development. Getting into the voting membership, currently, the coordinating committee, you can see the list there. City of Erie has 6, Erie County 1, PennDOT 2. Looks like Mill Creek and Cato have 2, and then every other municipality listed there has 1 vote. I shouldn't say municipality, you also have the authorities, EMTA, Airport Authority, Port Authority have 1. And then the Technical Advisory Committee, you see there, Erie, or City of Erie and Erie County and PennDOT each have 2. And then the listed organizations, municipalities, and authorities each have 1. Going back just a little bit of history, in 1963, the original membership, there were only 6 members of the coordinating committee, 2 votes for the city, 2 votes for the county, and 2 for PennDOT, and same setup with the TAC. And then there was a local government advisory committee that didn't have votes, with Mill Creek having 2, Erie County having 2, Harbor Creek, Lawrence Park, and Wesleyville having 2. I believe, and I know, Emily, you did some research, but that just had to do with the original setup of the committee, or the organization was only the city of Erie and the adjoining municipalities, correct? It
It
didn't
was
go.
the urbanized area, so
Okay.
it wasn't covering the entire county, it was just the dense population set. So it was the city and just those dense municipalities around the city.
So, yeah, that was the origin of the committee. And so here's just another rundown, a little timeline of history. 1973, they incorporated the local government committee into the coordinating committee. And in doing so, the county lost a vote, so they went down to 1 vote. In 1977, the MPO was expanded beyond what Emily just mentioned, from the urbanized area to encompass the entire county. And so you can see the voting layout there. That's where ECAB and ECATO came in, as well as the city of Corey. In 1979, the city was given 3 additional votes, so they had a total of 6. 92, they added Summit Township. In 99, Fairview and the authorities, the MTA, Airport, Port, were added. And then in 2008, Mill Creek Township and ECATO each received an additional vote. So there has been some discussion about changing the voting, the makeup of the number of voting members, or where they were assigned. And I know that we looked at several different options. And again, Emily did a great job coming up with some different metrics. I think we looked at straight population. We looked at total number of miles of roads in a municipality. We looked at, I believe we looked at, did we look at federal aid or just state routes? I think we looked at road mile, yeah.
Local road miles.
Right. And then we looked at also vehicle miles traveled. And so Emily had some data that I believe came from PennDOT about how many vehicle miles were traveled within each municipality daily. And so we seem to settle on that as a good metric to figure out how we distribute the number of voting members. And so the proposal that we came up with was that there would be a base membership where PennDOT would have 2, Erie County would have 2, the city of Erie would have 2, the city of Corey would have 1, the ECAB would have 2, ECATO would have 1, EMTA and the Port Authority would each have 1. Then the municipality with the highest number of vehicle miles traveled, which is the city, gets an additional. The township with the highest number of vehicle mile travels, that would be Mill Creek. One borough with the highest vehicle miles traveled, that's currently Girard. And then the borough with the second highest vehicle miles traveled, that is Edinburgh. And then I believe we took, oh, please do.
We're trying to keep to the same number of voting members that exist today. So that's how some of this comes together, is trying to keep the same number of voting members. That explains why we have a certain number over here in the next column of how many vehicle miles traveled. We're added votes because we're trying to keep it 23.
Yeah, and so, yeah, I'm sorry, before we leave this slide, and then you see there that the municipalities that had the highest number of vehicle miles traveled would each receive one additional vote. And so that takes us to the next chart. You can see here the ranking, the top 7 are Fairview, Northeast, McCain, Harbor Creek, Summit, Mill Creek, and Erie. Girard, Edinburgh.
Those are the ones that received a vote because they're
Oh,
borough.
gotcha. Yeah.
So they're the base vote.
Okay.
2 boroughs, the
Gotcha.
highest BMT and second highest.
Okay.
So those are the ones that were 9 votes based on vehicle mass.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to say about this chart, Jessica? Or...
You want to discuss, these items as they come up or after you come to the report?
How about, can we wait till we're
Yeah.
done, if you don't mind, and then, yeah, then we can bring it up, open it up for discussion, because the next slide does show kind of the net change of what happened in the coordinating committee. So you see that beginning with the city of Erie, they lose 2 votes from 6 to 4. The county does gain a vote, going from 1 to 2. Wesleyville does lose a vote, as well as Lawrence Park. ECAB gets an additional vote to 2, but Cato loses 1 to 1. The airport authority loses their vote. And then McCain, Northeast, Girard, and Edinburgh each gain a designated. That's the coordinating committee. And then if we
We're trying to create some equity between the percentage of boroughs that had a vote and the percentage of counties that had a vote, because in the prior arrangement, very few boroughs had a vote because of probably size. So we were trying to give a few more votes to boroughs to make it a little more level between counties and boroughs, percentage wise.
thank you.
Go back 1 second to the lines. Sorry.
I mean the chart, Jackie, the next, yeah.
This one.
And Emily, you can share this, can't
Yeah,
you?
I
There's-
can share this.
You can share the PDF after with everyone if they'd like to dig in or take a look.
Hopefully you can read it.
You mind getting one more?
The next slide.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the changes based on what you're,
Yeah.
so you're looking at vehicles traveled based on equity, is that what you said? That would be how we determine who would get more votes, but then they had amongst the boroughs, the highest vehicle mile traveled, or amongst the townships, the highest vehicle. There's only 2 borough votes prior to now, so we're trying to give a few more boroughs based on real information, vehicle miles traveled, not just arbitrary.
Are these mileage figures including the interstate?
I think, did we do all roads?
Yes.
All roads, all roads.
Interstate are included.
You couldn't just do road miles, but you might have a lot of roads, but nobody travels on them. That's why we use that
Yeah.
metric of vehicle miles travel.
Yes. So it doesn't incorporate the lanes either, because there's the lanes mile travel. So if you have like a 4-lane road, it's not including that. It's just.
Not lane miles, just. We just advanced to the next slide. I'm just gonna run through the technical advisory committee. This is the last slide, and then, we can open it up for more discussion. So you can see the changes here then to the TAC. Similar, the city of Erie loses 1 vote, going from 2 to 1. The county loses a vote going from 2 to 1. Wesleyville and Lawrence Park both lose their existing vote. And then you see at the bottom there, the municipalities or the agencies that gain votes. one for McCain Township, one for Northeast Borough, one for Girard Borough, Edinburgh Borough. The COG receives one, the Erie Parking Authority receives one, and the Erie County Emergency Management Agency receives one. Just as a reminder, the Technical Advisor Committee is only advisory. They don't vote or make any decisions. They just review proposals and give recommendations to this committee. So that's the presentation. Now we can open up the floor. I don't know if you.
On that, just on the advisory, the reason we added EMA because the hazard mitigation plan is something that crisscrosses between transportation planning and hazard mitigation planning, that they, as EMA, might have some knowledge of hazards that are occurring that we might want to plan for with our transportation. Or like, there was a project the other day, last meeting, whatever, about putting gates on the interstate ramps because of that snow thing. EMA would be important to be engaged with those kinds of things. Technical.
Man. I've waited 30 years to get this. God, I've plugged Galilee for a long time. And I haven't been real popular in some of the discussions that we've had on this change. And I commend the committee because this is hard work. It's not work that you get a lot of thank yous. So I commend you for a good job done. But there's some inequities has been in this committee. I've been interacting with this committee for almost 40 years in very different capacities. And the one big inequity has been the population change. And I'm not going to be real popular with the city of Erie. I haven't been going back even to Jeff Spalding days. But they have supported us, out in the county, and we've been very thankful that there's been a good synergy between the city and the county because of the imbalance of votes that were present. I'll take the technical committee first, because there are some nuances here that people tend to disregard when they're working on this particular issue. I like to have the voices. I gave kudos to Bill because for many years, the Boroughs Association never showed up. And it just wasn't there. But also in that time, Mill Creek has become the big dog. Harbor Creek has grown, Summit has grown, along with Fairview in a more modest way. And the county has changed government and operates in a different capacity. And the city of Erie has lost population. And the big inequity here, I think this is fairly balanced. The parking authority kind of I question because I think they could be a non-voting member. I don't know. I mean, I'm throwing these things out so we know what the discussion is. So when these things happen, we have a full disclosure. But the parking authority kind of surprised me a little bit. I, of course, 14 years on county council, I'm a warrior for the county and for the city of Corey too. And I appreciate Mayor coming up here. Tom has been very faithful representing the city of Corey. The big elephant in the room is this change in demographics and power structure between the city of Erie and the county. The county has grown in power and budget. When you look at the staggering budget of the county right now, as versus the challenges of the city of Erie. And you have to have those two working together hand in hand, supporting each other, which we've been able to do. The Erie County, though, what always gets lost in Erie County is Erie County has two levels of government. They have the county executive, which is really the 8th council member. He has veto power and runs the administration. but he can't spend a dime without the county council. Same in Erie too, with the mayor, but the problem is the county council is the fiscal manager of the county. And they have been left out of the MPO forever. Now, I, of course, zealously argued that the county needed to increase its presence on the MPO for several reasons. But fiscally, the biggest dog in Erie County is the county council. Not the county executive, the county council. The county executive does the will of the county council. And I have always contended that the county council should have one vote. And the county executive's office, the administration should have one vote. The outlier here is the county department of planning also should have a vote. Now that's a balanced problem. If the county executive wants to use his vote to, because he has that power. But I normally, Jessica in this case does a great job representing the county administration. And she's out of county planning. So the county planning is another thing that, I don't know if you know this, but Erie County is one of the few counties in Pennsylvania. It's the only county in Pennsylvania where the MPO is housed in the county. The others are either independent organizations housed in other agencies. And like State College, the Center County, they're independent of everybody. They have their own agency. So every county, like the rural RPO, with the vulnerable counties, our neighbors, they're all different. But people tend to think that the county, which houses the MPO, rules the MPO. No. Emily is not really a county employee, or shouldn't be. This is a federal program. And we got structured that way. I know this because in the governor's office, I worked with all these MPOs. And they're all different and they all work differently. But like I said, I've worked on this for 30 years to try to get this balanced out. We're at a point now where we can balance it. I think we have a good, clear picture of the growth in the county, the balance in the county. Fortunately, we work together cooperatively. We have very few contentious votes because we have worked cooperatively. I would not want to take anything away from Erie, but the city of Erie has a lot of input with the different agencies that are on here. The boroughs and the townships have members, a good balance there. What you're missing is the county council liaison, which I think should be represented. The county council has liaisons for every organization. I always filled that role for the MPO unofficially. And so I just wanted to put that in as you're thinking right now. I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody, but I do think we'd have more dynamics if we had county council who had a liaison on this program so that as they work with budget, et cetera, they would have the input into the MPO and they would probably respect the MPO a little bit more. I did it just out of, I don't know, accidentally got involved in it. But you've heard that speech before, but I wanted to have it here because this is going to change this organization forever. And if we go to the technical committee, can we bring that screen up? That's where.
And the coordinator?
I mean, the coordinating committee. I'm sorry, we're on the technical committee, coordinating committee, yeah. On the coordinating committee, there always was an imbalance with Erie having 6, especially as a growth of Mill Creek and Summit and Harbor Creek. Mill Creek really, what's Mill Creek's population is versus 54,000, Erie still is around 100. 92,000. So they've gone closer. When these were made, there was a huge gap between the two. Now it's shorter and it's getting shorter all the time, it seems. So the change for the city of Erie, I still think Erie probably, I would like to see at least, the county get the one. The county budget has grown from about 100 million, is it 100 million to 500 million dollars over this period of time? Less than 100 million. So the county has experienced great growth in their impact in the county. And I would suggest that, and again, this isn't popular, but moving one vote from Erie down to the planning department. I don't know, Jessica. I just think the planning department should have a voice.
Well, we did go up to two. I mean, Erie County on this.
Well, that was great
has
equity.
one vote.
I know.
We'll get to two, that's.
That's why I've been fighting for a number of years to get that.
Question in terms of methodology, because I'm not really involved in the committee. I know Leanne sat, Leanne was already up, Jason right now.
Can you stand up?
I said, I don't know the methodology that was used to determine votes, who gets what, who goes up, who goes down. I know Leanne sat on the committee, Jason is telling me that right now. But you're only showing here vehicles traveled as a parameter. Did you also, did the committee look at population as well? Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, and we went through all different opportunities to try to figure out the fairest way to
I
distribute the
understand.
votes.
So
So we did,
that was not shared in this meeting, population. So you're talking about population, but you're only showing in the.
Well, but violence.
That being said, I do agree with you as a city planning director. I do agree that the county planning department should have a voice here, considering they're the ones that uphold the long range master plan. They're the ones that are involved in all the planning, aspects
and
of
the
it.
bridge program.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I agree in that, I'm not necessarily saying we should take from the city of Erie, but the additional vote should be representative of the county planning department. Absolutely. I'm in agreement with that, but not necessarily to take another vote away from the city of Erie.
Right, I don't want
Considering
it
we
to,
do have the largest miles, the largest vehicle miles represented. And our population, while yes, has decreased over the several decades. We still have the
Yeah.
largest population.
the vehicle miles,
Fair. Going down to four, the city still has the most votes.
I see. that.
yeah, they still,
So
they,
we're not
and
like
their population,
less than the majority. We still have the most.
I understand.
but if you combine Mill Creek and Harbor Creek, say, or Summit, you're getting close to the population in the city of Erie at this point. Okay, I'm not, the mileage is an outlier. Because when you put the interstates in there, it just gets crazy. I mean, it needs to be there, but, I don't really look at that as a determiner. The determiner has to be for the good. The reason why, and I'm sorry to get into the detail, but this is the one, I've been waiting for this moment for 30 years. The detail here is, if you get a county executive that wants to rule the county in his own way with votes and is interested enough in the MPO, that's going to skew a lot where if he doesn't listen to his county planning department, and the planning department does not have that, like it's very important because of all the things that are going on there, as long as the MPO is connected to the county. So I'm not gonna go on and on with this discussion, but, and I don't wanna take away from anything from Erie, but they're also getting some other representation too from some others. And the boroughs and the townships are balanced out. But I'd like you to think about that as you go into your committee. Because the county council could be used as a positive good. We've been lucky that no county executive has ever gotten involved enough in the MPO or worried enough about the MPO to, take and do their vote. for the county, because there have been situations where the planning department and the administration and the council haven't worked together. And that could hurt that whole process. So, and like the airport, now the airport, will they have a non-voting membership?
The airport, we proposed to remove from the coordinating committee because most of their funding, I think all of their funding is federal, that comes from the FAA.
Yeah,
But they would remain on the technical advisory committee.
yeah, I would like to see their input because I think that's important. And, the second, the Port Authority
Port Authority remains on both.
and the Metropolitan Transit, you see, there's two Erie votes right there. Okay, I'm not trying to make a case. I don't want to rob Erie of a single thing because I love Erie. But, they have a couple more votes that they can work with, in that point. And where the county, like I said, the county has to be recognized as a big dog in Erie County.
Dave, I appreciate your comments about the planning department having a vote, but I think none of these voting members define who or what department, and I don't know that the county needs you to say the 2 votes to the county or county exec and county planning, as opposed to just say 2 votes to the county and let the county exec decide.
No, I'm not saying 2 votes. I'm saying county council has to be represented. I'm firm on that.
How do we do that with the city? I mean, doesn't that open, we're going down into the layers, instead of
Well-
saying the municipalities pick their representative, we're getting deep down into the layers of who they pick, and I don't know that we want to.
It's the thing that people don't understand is the county council is on the same plane as the executive. They're all commissioners. It's just we have a different form of government. And the county council, when it gets iced out and the tech program is pulled away from the administration, county council has to build their own technical program. You can see what kind of impact that has. When the administration does not talk to the county council, the county council gets iced out of everything, and they're really the budget. They control the money. Sorry for being a warrior, but we've got to have, this is the point, we've got to make sure that into the future, we balance this out. And I understand the city of Erie, but we have a lot of votes in the city of Erie. I really don't want to take a vote away from the city of Erie. But my job is my platform is to see that the county council is represented on this commission. And I've talked about that for 30 years.
No.
And as the county budget grows and the impact of the county commissioners grows in the state, we have to be, sorry for taking up.
No, thank you for your input. We appreciate it. And I know we have a lot of people that want to talk and we want to hear everybody.
Yep.
Just want to reiterate, please write your concerns down. Please send them to Emily and I'll recap that for everybody when we're done. But, okay, sorry.
Yeah, couple questions. So, if there are people that we agree, we think they deserve an extra vote, and I can agree with giving an extra vote to the county. I do like the idea of county council. I know that opens up a couple other cans of worms. But if we agree that it makes sense to add votes to these people, is there a limit or is there a reason why we're limiting the total amount of votes? Do we want to stay within, did you say there was 20 something total?
23.
So 23, is there a reason why we want to stay at 23, or if we all agree that this is a good person to give a vote to, why do we have to take one from the city to give it? Why do we have to why isn't zero sum in that way?
That was just the parameters that we were operating under. We're keeping the voting membership the same. That is, something that certainly could be considered. I don't know if there are any, legislative rules about the makeup of the committee or.
No, the committee can be as many number of people as want. I guess the issue we discussed in the committee was that if we get too many votes, if every single municipality has a vote, we're gonna reach a point where we'll never get quorum. because there are people that will just not show up.
And is there a way that we can say and I would really think every municipality should get a vote and then maybe proportionally add more to the city, or whatever, more Mill Creek. But couldn't we say we'll have 40 voting members total, but for a quorum in a meeting, we only need this many, and we can artificially hold that low and kind of say, if me and Wesleyville don't show up for a meeting, then, we're kind of sacrificing what our vote would be that meeting, but you're not taking away our vote entirely in the organization. So I would think could we artificially set, say, we're comfortable with 15 members being quorum, and that's what we need for quorum, everybody agrees to that, or then we have a total of 80 members that could vote if they wanted.
Isn't the 51% standard for quorum? In the
I mean, typically it is. I know that the county planning commission used to operate that way. Every municipality had a member, and then there was an executive committee that was considered the voting group, and that, they had a quorum. I know that they moved away from that, mostly because the municipality's planning code, it didn't coincide with what the planning code called for. But that would be something I think that would have to be explored. Again, to Jessica and Emily's point, typically in an organization, if you have a voting committee, a quorum is, just over 50%.
Yeah.
So.
I understand that. I guess if that's the only reason why we're limiting the votes, I guess understand that, although I'd like to explore other opportunities for quorum, because I don't like the idea that this has to be a zero sum. We need to shuffle and take some from one person to give to another. In terms of, I'll get to vehicle miles traveled in a second. I'm trying to wrap my head around that, but if we want to talk population for a second, I can see if we're talking the city versus Mill Creek or whatever, but the city of Corey has 6,000 people. So 6,000 people in the city of Corey versus 90 something thousand in the city of Erie. There should be, that doesn't make much sense to me.
Corey has a city status, which puts it on a different plane.
second, third class city.
Yeah, so it's third class city.
So do they have to be,
It basically does give a little inch to that.
Yeah.
The city status. If Mill Creek went to city status, it would change their the funding and a lot of different things, yeah. That's why Corey has never dropped the city status. Because it opens up a lot of funding activity that you don't get as a borough.
so in the past, when we had members join, I can't remember what year you said for Fairview, is that 99 or did you say 2000?
Fairview was 99.
So 99, Fairview came around, we gave them a vote right away. What was the thinking at that? What was the parameters of who got a vote, who didn't at that time? Or was it just, we felt we weren't as worried about quorum in 99, so we decided we could give Fairview a vote without a problem?
I'm not aware, I wasn't on the committee at the
Yeah,
time.
at that time, that was gone. Erie County, the demographics were changing. And we felt that we had to change, especially in the metro area. But we thought it was coming.
Is it the merger, the borough and township?
Pardon?
Was it the merger of Fairview Borough and township?
Yeah, that was probably what triggered most.
Probably the change one.
Yeah,
Yeah, Marcus, we're trying to make an equitable voting membership, and we just stuck to the 23 because that's how many members there were. It doesn't eliminate anybody's opportunity to get their road projects funded. It has nothing to do with that. Every operating municipality has the opportunity to put projects on the LRGP, request funding through the TIP. It doesn't change anybody's ability to get their project funded. It's just trying to make a manageable, fair representation of voting members. And you're right, we could go to 25 if that's what this group wanted instead of 23 to give more entities a vote at the table. We were just trying to keep within that number. And I do really feel confident to say that even if you're not a voting member, your projects will still get a fair hearing here and be given an opportunity, just like lots of municipalities that don't come here as projects are funded.
Yeah. In terms of vehicle miles traveled, from my understanding, I believe Emily, you said in the email, this is the first year that it was accumulated, vehicle miles traveled account. And this includes all roads, including local, not just the state. when and how did they get those? I don't know, for our local roads especially, I mean, they really calculated out the average daily traffic on. And all our roads.
Well, there's a formula so it is, PennDOT does take traffic counts.
Mhm.
So for local roads in an area, it will be kind of average from one. They will extrapolate to an area and then use the length of miles. So the length of roads on local roads is based on those, local fuels maps. So those should be accurate for length of roads.
Yeah.
And then actual people using them is, some of it is extracted, it is not calculated for every single road out there.
PennDOT does do counts on local roads selectively, in municipalities.
Implied growth factor, which changes every 6 months based on criteria. That's something central office does.
I'm not familiar with when they've come through Westingville, because I'm a local road. I know they did on Buffalo Station within the last couple of years, they've done traffic count, but I wasn't familiar with local roads in Westingville. Yeah, that was when you mentioned it was the first year it was measured, like, I can't imagine that would be super accurate on our local road.
Oh, well, I guess, sorry, I
Yeah,
guess
go
that was both, Marcus, so so we've had the MT for the county for a long time. It's how a lot of the tip funds are allocated to the county.
Yes.
So it's been calculated on a county level at least 20 years, by PennDOT. It's just, we've never asked PennDOT to break it down by municipality, break it down that way. So so it's been calculated for many years, but the county just not at the. That's what I meant to say. So that's the first time.
Emily?
Anyone has seen. Yes.
Emily, hello, Chris Broner at the city. I don't know if I could jump in,
Yes.
for a minute. So just looking at the numbers here, the one comment that was made, and I agree with a lot of what Dave's saying, the county is growing and they need to make sure their voice represents that growth. But I would push back a little bit in saying that the Port Authority and the Transit Authority are basically city votes. I mean, let's not just, count that as two city votes. Really you could say the same about the Association of Boroughs and the Association of Township officials, right? I mean, they're going to have their viewpoint on these things, but when I look at the numbers that you're showing on the screen right now, 4 votes out of 23, I mean, that's a 17% representation. And even if you count the port and EMTA and just counted those as city votes, then you're at 26% representation with this new breakdown. The city is a third of the county. So let's not cut too much here. And I don't like the idea of counting those 2 votes as just city votes. So, I think we need to think this through. And as it stands now, 4 votes out of 23. I mean, I like the idea if you want to give a voice to others, and perhaps we move beyond 23 votes, but certainly don't think you should take anything further from the city, because as it stands right now, I think we're slightly underrepresented with this new plan. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in. Thank you.
Can I answer Chris? Chris, I agree with you. Like I said, I wouldn't want to take a vote away from Erie. That was only just a thing. But when I say the Port Authority and the 2 authorities, most of the business they do is in the city of Erie or here. So I wasn't proposing. I want to keep the city strong, and I agree with you. The second thing on the city of Corey is if you take Summit Township and you go east, there's no one represented until you get to Corey. And the representative from Corey has an eye on the southeastern counties. And look at the chart. So it's not just the city of Corey here. At least I've always been that way. We watch the whole region down there. Work with the MPO. So it's not just that population alone, because there's no other townships, boroughs, southeast, And of course, the Girls Association, Township Association, the health person, those two.
Yeah.
So just in terms of.
Yeah,
we have
and
a lot-
Dave, I'm sorry, I only heard part of that. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just, obviously I represent the city, so that's,
Yeah.
my viewpoint, but the port and EMTA, I mean, they serve county residents too, and EMTA goes beyond the city. So
Right.
I don't like
Well,
lumping those, I don't like lumping those two votes in and counting them as city votes.
Well,
To
I wasn't
me,
trying to lump it. I was just trying to say, I was just trying to look at the focus, like the quarry focus. And those focuses, each area has an area that they focus. That's all.
right, yeah, and I'm just, I'm looking at numbers and I'm thinking 4 out of 23. I mean, that's 17%. I know it's a very elementary way of looking at this, but now I feel like the city might be underrepresented. So I just wanted to throw my comments into the mix and, we'll have to hash this out. So thank you.
To Chris's point though, going by population, we're talking about funding for roads. The population is not the driver of what we're funding. We're funding the condition of roads. So we have to use some metric that has something to do with roads as opposed to population. And using this metric, the city has obviously the most vehicle miles traveled, but not all that much more than Mill Creek. So I mean, we have to use a metric that has to do with what we're doing. We're funding transportation issues. We're not funding people issues, which is we use a population metric or how many people there are and what you need. But because you all know the same thing I know, it's where the cars are driving that's affecting our job here to fund transportation projects. The highest traveled intersection in Erie County is the intersection at 90 on Peach and Summit. So looking at a population factor doesn't affect where the highest road miles are being used by vehicles. So we have to, our focus has to be on the impact to what we're doing here, which is to the roads, right? The highest vehicle miles or the highest, busiest intersection in Erie County is I-90 and Peach Street in Summit. I'm a city girl. I spent 12 years on city council. I don't want to hurt the city, but I want to use our, define our role to based on what our goals are here. Our goals are to fund transportation projects where the need is.
So in terms of vehicle miles traveled, I guess, so let me try to understand this. If there was, let's say, a road where it is 1 mile long and it has 1,000 vehicles per day. So that 1 times 1,000 is then the number. If there's another road that only got 500 vehicles per day, so half of the amount of usage, but it was a 2 mile long road, those two are viewed evenly. Ultimately in this metric, that if there's 1,000 people using this road, but it's only 1 mile long, and you only have 500 using this one, but it's 2 miles, those are identical.
No, it's the same vehicle.
No, okay,
Right?
Right. It's not.
The same vehicle driving.
so then you, okay, so.
They calculate it. I can guarantee you that vehicle miles traveled is a valid way of looking at things because the funding we get as a state, almost everything is dependent on vehicle miles traveled. And I can't tell you exactly how they calculate it because we have a whole unit that does all of that based on traffic studies and based on that. But if you were to go through financial guidance, every dollar they give us, I was going down through, every one of them has something to do with vehicle miles traveled. They take a portion of what our vehicle miles traveled is for the region, and that's how they calculate how much money they're giving us. Because they're looking at how many vehicles are going over that particular section.
Yeah, I guess if I could get more clarity on how that's calculated, because I thought when it was mentioned on the slide there, it just said the annual average daily traffic times the amount of miles. I thought it said. So that's just where the calculation I did there, which I'm just trying to figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calculated by.
Calculation, we can find you the calculation, Marcus, that's not a problem.
Okay, yeah.
But if there is a calculation, because they're not counting the amount of vehicles at every segment of roadway and every mile of roadway. They're doing it periodically, and then they do the calculation to determine over the length of the road, how many vehicles are traveling. So there would be that's extrapolated and done for that, but we can get the calculation for anyone that wants it.
Okay, yeah, I was definitely like that.
Yep, no problem.
Go ahead.
Cato loses one. We're glad we picked up two more. I think that's appropriate. And, in regard to Corey being more regional, I believe, Edinburgh and Gerard would be looked at as regional also.
So you mentioned that here.
So the Cato vote or representation is gonna be more rural oriented. And my only primary question is how and West figures into the Edinburgh area. Washington Township, I think, is more growth oriented than the borough is as it pertains to the future. The borough, if anything happens to Penn West, the borough is going to be shrinking in population, and I believe the miles would be, what, if the miles of the campus are included into those calculations, I question that. But just to take into consideration that road disruptions or route alternatives for the rural people are greater, but they're more impactful than those in the urban areas. You have greater selection of routes than we in the rural areas do, so. Now, I know I can't figure your calculation and all, but any disruption or deterioration of a road or a bridge has a greater impact on the rural people than it does on the individual traveler. I know on a number of vehicles, it has a greater impact on a number of vehicles in urban areas, but in the rural areas, the mileage is going to, the disruption is greater. But I do think, and I appreciate adding the townships that you have is a benefit to, say, Cato. I think that's a profit change.
Between 79 and 90, the King probably has the most traffic of any township in the area. I wouldn't be surprised. The question, would making the council a non-voting member, would that resolve the issue?
It might, but the problem is, if you have a war between your county executive and the council, and there's a major road funding issue, that becomes a problem. We fortunately have only had a couple in the last 10 or 15 years where those votes have counted. I think you have room to expand that one's seat without attacking anyone else. Because there again, county council also has a lot of impact governmentally with the state. Not just the county.
Yeah, go ahead.
As you showed in the first slide, Matt, 1963 there, Westerville was, one of the first founding involved here with, MPO. And, to take Westerville off, I think, you can understand it really will get upset with the whole, you can add as many as you want, but to take Westerville off, we're gonna be a little bit upset with that. I mean, we're right in the middle of Erie, Hartford, Northeast. I know we're small. We have our own police department, we do our own road flowers, we pick up our own garbage. We're a pretty powerful little bit of that. We need, like I said, we've been involved with this since 1963, so please consider that and put that into your file. Being a family father, you would have to say it, and I think you're still going to stay on with it. That is open.
Thank you. Is there anybody else on this side of the room that has any comments? Oh, Matt.
Just real quick, is there gonna be a provision that this is reviewed, because we're basing this off of moving metrics, and set it now and 15 years from now, it's gonna be completely different. Is there like a 5-year review that's gonna be done, like to see what the metrics change, the change can make up?
That's a good proposal. We hadn't discussed that, but that, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And we can definitely write that into the text of the bylaws. For review by everybody, but yeah. Okay. Is there anybody behind me here? Jason?
Yeah, I hear what you say, Dave, but I echo Chris Groner's comments on this. That I don't feel there should be a loss of the city vote, involved with the warrant. I understand the fix. I don't think it's. Everything Dave said, well, that makes sense. I'm not sure if it's the goal here to worry about the power balance in the county government, because I can say that we have a city council mayor. And they don't always agree, everybody knows that, so. And that happened in other governing bodies, Washington, different townships can have the same thing, so. I don't know, we should get too much on the balance of power between the.
Can I respond to that? I agree totally with you on the four. I don't want to see Erie go below. When I made the comment, it was just throw out secret comments, because I do support Erie. But here's the thing that you have to understand, I've probably spent too much time in government. The county is looked at as a different form of government than your municipal governments. Everyone in Pennsylvania lives in a county. Everyone. Okay, that's why the county's association is the most powerful dog in the governmental strata in Harrisburg. Because people live in cities, boroughs, but the county represents everyone. So they have to be looked at on a different level than municipal governments. And I've served in the League of Cities, I've served in the county commissioners, I've worked with the state organizations, boroughs and townships very closely. So I'm not trying to take anything away from the level of the city down. I'm saying the counties in Pennsylvania work on a higher level, a different level than your municipal government. And that's why I say, when you have this form of government here, you have to recognize in home rule government that you do have these layers of administration, governance. And county council, and I may be too sensitive, for 14 years, county council a lot of times is just overlooked. They hold the purse string. Now, it won't impact that much because the county doesn't contribute that much. But there is another factor in that the county council has a lot of lobby powers, has a lot of, you know what I mean? With the legislators, et cetera. So I'm just trying to say there's a different strata. We can't compare, like I can't compare the city of Erie with the city of Fort, even though they're both third-class cities. But we both work under the same rules. But that's a different layer than the boroughs, like Summit Township as, versus like, Springfield Township. It's all different layers. I'm just saying, county council holds the purse strings for the whole county and should be recognized because a lot of times they're not in many of the organizations.
All right,
And it just helps the input, that's all.
thank you.
My other comment though is, what about, just in what's up, what about talking us citizens? Forest Park is our first class township. Do we have, is that our only one?
Yes. it's the only one.
So the other ones are all second. So we're taking their vote away. So should that be considered? That perhaps they should be represented.
Has to do with the road. We're forgetting that this is a defined group that is defined to rank road projects. If you don't have roads in Lawrence Park, they're way down on the list of vehicle miles traveled. So the likelihood that they're gonna have a road project is so much less likely than McCain, like Ron said, they're the fifth vehicle miles traveled. And I mean, like, we have to define what we're trying to achieve here. Sorry.
For what it's worth, and I don't have a vote. in any way, shape or form, but for what it's worth, I don't know who the voting body is. I've been working with the MPO and I do the funding programming, and now I've moved up and I'm doing asset management. And I couldn't tell you who has a vote, who has how many votes, because as far as we're looking at things from programming roadway projects, we're looking at it from an asset management approach. So we're looking at what the road looks like, what the quality of the road is, and when it needs to be repaired. We're listening to every municipality, everybody who comes to talk to us about any problem whatsoever. We're taking that into account. We meet with every municipality as we prepare a project. So I just want everyone to know that no matter what the outcome of the voting body is, that's not changing. And the way we approach the projects is not changing. So we're looking at it from an asset management and how many vehicles are traveling and how many lane miles particular project has, but we don't look at projects even from a municipality standpoint. So, for what it's worth, so everybody knows, that's not part of the discussion of what's changing, so.
Thank you for that.
That's
Anybody, hang on one sec. Go ahead.
No, I was just.
Oh, go ahead, Mark.
I just wanted to make one comment. I was looking real quick at the forum rules on the Robert's rules. I think I see the online thing here. So it does state, the quorum of the body of delegates, unless the bylaws provide for a smaller quorum, is a majority of the number. And it does state that several times there, a deliberative assembly with enrolled membership, unless the bylaws provide for a smaller quorum, it is automatically a majority. And it does say later on here, in ordinary societies, the bylaws shall provide for a quorum as large as could be depended on, to show up in good weather. So, I mean, logistically, if we're concerned about getting too many votes, I think we should just look at reducing the quorum and then not take away votes. I think give more votes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that research, Mr. Chairman.
No, I was just gonna say, I would imagine that the subcommittee will digest all the
Yeah,
input.
absolutely. If,
Who all is on the?
so it is Leanne, Mayor Baker, Brandon from, PennDOT Central Office, Jessica, myself. Am I missing somebody? Nope. Yep. And then Emily is, yeah. Emily has been doing all of the hard work, so.
I think we all have. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And again, I want to reiterate that if you, everybody, even the people that spoke today, although I know Emily took some copious notes, if you could please just follow up with an email to Emily in the subject MPO bylaws so that she can track them. Any coordinating committee members, please, just get those in writing into her so that we can compile them and we make sure that we're hearing from everybody in their concerns.
Matt, can I have one last comment? I like to throw fireballs because too many times we make decisions without real heavy duty discussion. And so please bear with me. I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that I like to make sure everything is prepared well and thought out as a group. And you've done a great job today in doing this, but I also want to say as a last comment, I've gotten as much done when I'm not a member of the MPO as I have when I have been a member of the MPO. Because the MPO has always worked with PennDOT and with the local governments to move forward. This is only just a little nitpicky thing, but this is the time we have to make this change. And that's why I took you to that exercise today, because we don't want to deal with it a year from now. So I appreciate the work that the committee has done. I think we pretty much know now where we're at. I would endorse adding a couple more seats. When you talk about it in committee, it's not unwieldy yet. But, discuss those things. Nothing that I said today is in stone. It's only to bring up comment and discussion.
Thank you. And if I could allow me just one more to wrap up on this. We had a vision of a schedule in our head, but there is no timeline on finishing these bylaws. I think our thought was to present it today, incorporate comments to circulate to everybody for a vote at our next coordinating committee. Well, technical advisory recommend and then coordinating subcommittee. But I think maybe after all of this input, it may take us some time to digest. So we will probably push that back at least another set of meetings to give more time for input. In the packet that Emily sent around was a clean version of the new bylaws and then a red line version so that you can look at what they said and what the proposed changes. So I encourage everybody to look at that as well before you send any of your input to Emily, but please, again, email that to Emily.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for everybody's input and don't go too far, Matt, because you're gonna give us an update on the LRTP.
I'm really sorry, but this is going to be incredibly short. I hope
I
nobody.
think we're okay.
Yeah,
with
okay,
that.
thanks. I appreciate that. Just really quickly on the LRTP, our last meeting with the consultant, I believe, was in April. They provided us with a scope of work and a timeline. There was a discussion of public outreach strategies. So currently, the consultant is going to work with EMTA as well as the County Office of Emergency Management, because both EMTA and the County Hazard Mitigation Plan are looking for public input. So we'd like to coordinate all of those into kind of one outreach. And so we're not asking people, fill out this survey, fill out this survey, fill out this survey. Hopefully we can gather a bunch of data at one time and get a better turnout. So that's where we're at.
Great. Take a breath and get a drink.
Thanks.
Moving on to agenda item number 7, agency updates. Is there anybody on line with EMTA?
Yep. Hi.
Hi, Dave.
Hold on one second, I'll turn this on. Hi, folks. Wait a second. I had to get my instructions from Mayor Schember. I don't have a whole lot more to report than I did last month about our transit development plan, but I can say that since then, we've had a long-term transportation committee meeting, and we've been able to work it out so that the WRA consultants working with that effort are going to work in collaboration with our consultants at Rockland on the public outreach component, so that we can maximize the amount of input we can get from the public without overtaxing their involvement. I wouldn't expect that public comment piece to begin until probably the latter part of July or into August, simply because the consultants are going to have to go through a pile of current policies, plans from around the county, demographic studies, travel studies, et cetera, before they even get a baseline of where we're at right now. But I'll be able to tell you a lot more at next month's meeting, because we're meeting with the consultants that are working with us from Rockland on the 25th of June. Beyond that, that's all I have to report.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Okay, and updates. Mark.
Morning, everybody. We did update the newsletter for the month of June. It's included in the meeting materials. Key changes. One project came off the list. That was the Route 832 paving project, which was let and is now in construction. We added 2 projects from the February news since the February newsletter. One being the Interstate 90 paving project has been added. That project goes from milepost 18, which is near the 832 ramps, over to milepost 35, which is just past the peak over the exit ramps. That's largely going to be a asphalt overlay from 832 to roughly about milepost 23, and then from 23 to the eastern limit of the project is just going to be pavement patching. The other project is the I-79 paving project that is going to extend from the southern limit near the Edinburgh interchange north to roughly the Hershey Road bridge north of the I-90 ramps. It's also going to include the ramps for 79 and 80. That's also going to be an overlay from milepost, roughly from Edinburgh to north 70 miles, and then for the remainder, they're going to be doing some patching. Questions?
Any questions of Mark?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
The cruise is 14.99 from Ames to interchange. Very good. They're right on the mark. Good. Very good. So they did a good job and expeditiously besides.
That Edinburgh Road project, how far, is that the extent of the paving? Or are they going all the way out to Edinburgh?
Or 70.
No, on Edinburgh Road 99. State Route
I think it's
99.
just the
They're going
The township.
change road just past the Canberra,
Oh, yeah.
right in there. They're gonna skip on the section. To Edinburgh.
Okay.
And we're doing 6F from Edinburgh. Just past the 4 lanes west.
79. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Is Julia still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Julia.
Hi. I just had some announcements regarding the TA set aside applications, but it seems like maybe Emily's gonna talk about that under other business.
You can do it.
Okay. So the transportation alternative set aside application is opening soon. And just a reminder that this application is to provide funding for projects and activities defined as transportation alternatives, such as like bicycle and pedestrian facilities, improving non-driver access to public transportation, community improving activities, safe routes to school, stuff like that. So the application period will open on July 14th. And the dates that Emily has on the agenda, basically there's a draft application that are mandatory, and those will be due on September 5th. And then the final applications are due on October 31st. Updated guidance and procedures will be released soon, and any questions can be directed to Justin Cambrick in our office, in central office. And I'll provide a link with some grant details also to Emily to send out after the meeting. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Traffic count. Locations.
Yes, that's me. Really quickly, PennDOT central office is doing some traffic counts this year. And I wanted to make sure everyone has some map of where they're located at. So some of them are on local road. So if you get calls from constituents or have a question about a counter that's out there, you can know if it's PennDOT central office or someone else doing. So I just wanted to make sure everyone had these locations for 2025.
How many is that? I can't see. Is that hundreds of locations of these counted?
It's probably around.
We used to count 100 in each county each year. And then we'd vary that. And about every 5 years, you go back and count the same spot. So then you can determine those growth factors I was mentioning earlier. Quite the program across the state.
Yes.
Great. And Julia already gave us the
Yeah.
update. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, and I'm sorry for but we are here to look. Mark, I didn't get a chance to talk to you before the meeting. This morning I had to go into Bianchi and the Kia dealership, on my way up here for business. And it hit me that, very successfully, we put the down here at the end of the road. But the new dealerships that are coming in and the growth of that corridor, it's tough. Get out. And I was thinking, and again, we have to start with an idea that maybe we should start looking at that corridor between the road, this road, and into Robinson. Because as we get more and more business, that cross turn is becoming more dangerous.
We have a project to do that. We're working on it.
Underway.
It's right in the newsletter.
Yeah.
Good.
And then we're hoping to continue to south.
Good.
And it's in the newsletter.
Good, good. It's a great thing.
Yeah, it's not in the newsletter, but it's one we're working on.
It will be.
Yeah.
Is that next year?
I think it'll be, I think it's 27.
27, yeah.
Because of the
We have,
right-of-way acquisition, the number will take to do it.
we have a meeting coming up on that here pretty soon as far as on site.
With Kyle?
Yeah.
Yes,
Probably.
probably.
Okay.
Kyle Barker is the project manager.
So we're extending the center turn lane from Dorn Road north to Robinson. So you'll be seeing that project in the next couple of years.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Any other public comment?
Tim Freda has her.
Oh, Freda, yes.
Am
Oh,
I-
you,
Okay, I'm unmuted now. All right, let me just open up my list here. So I am speaking, let me open my laptop, you can hear me better. I'm speaking as probably the member of the public who attends these meetings, at least in recent time, more than anybody else. And I would agree, I believe it was somebody from Corey who spoke at great length and suggested that there ought to be, the county council liaison should be part of this group. And I also would agree with that. If you look at the liaison list, there is no specific identification of the MPO for a county council member to be liaison to. It could, I suppose, be the person who is liaison to the planning department, but I would definitely agree that the county council should have a relationship to the MPO, and I would support that change in the bylaws. I specifically mentioned when I spoke before about MPMS 72455, the scour money, I specifically had a question of what kind of environmental review was done concerning plan to pave stream bed with concrete, and Ms. Cornell did not address that. I'm just mentioning that. Emily mentioned a process for MPO representatives to provide, she mentioned adding projects already on the tip. Is it the tip or the LRTP to be added to a funding request?
It is for the tip. It is the tip.
Okay. Now the betterment projects are on the LRTP. Can those be, there are 38 of them. Can they be, are they potentially available to be added for request to fund, for funding? And I agree with Chris Groner, ETA membership on the MPO as a voting member is absolutely not the same as the city of Erie having membership. I also frequently attend ETMA board meetings, and they are hardly representing the city. So let's see. Again, I urge being able to include the betterment projects, which are on the LRTP, in the funding request that you mentioned, Emily. And there are 38 of them scattered around the country. The betterments, the purpose of this listing is to identify critical gaps in pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, as well as roadway maintenance, so upgrades can be considered during routine roadway improvement or maintenance projects along the identified routes. Exhibit 66 in the LRTP is a map of the betterment projects. And 67 is a table of all of the betterment projects. They were discussed in the tip. They're discussed in the comments. Included in that list specifically is Pittsburgh Avenue, sidewalks there, which was identified as an HAN on the traffic safety improvement plan process the city is currently doing. So I would urge that betterments be also eligible for that funding process. And there was a second funding process that Julia Cornell referenced, the TA set aside. Is that the same as what you described in the beginning, Emily? Or is that yet another group of funding. And could you identify again the name of the funding mechanism you described early in the meeting? Thank you.
Sure. So the funding mechanism with that form was specifically the Transportation Improvement Program. The funding mechanism that Julia talked about is a application for 100% reimbursement of construction with the TA set aside program, or TASA. Sometimes you hear it called TASA. And that is open every 2 years. And it'll be open again coming up next month. So they are two different things. Although sometimes they become listed on the tip once they become a project. So sometimes we will see TASA projects on our tip, but there is a separate application process for it that municipalities have to go through.
And a
So the
separate source of
betterment
funding.
projects, the betterment projects on the LRTP, which were referenced in the tip, are they eligible for the funding mechanism, Emily, that you mentioned?
Maybe is the answer. I mean, people are welcome to submit a betterment project, but in general, why they are betterments is that they are things that will be incorporated when PennDOT is coming through with more funding to do a bigger project. The projects that are more likely to get funding are those ones that are labeled as the highway and bridge projects, I believe those projects lists were. That are in the LRTP. So there's another project list that is much more likely to be funded than a standalone project. They are listed in the LRTP in order to kind of be tag along projects to other projects going through, if that makes sense. So you're guys are welcome to submit them, but they probably won't be funded on their.
Be funded under TASA.
They could be funded under TASA, yes. Under that program, if municipality applies, so specifically like a sidewalk, because TASA, I think it's a $50,000 minimum for construction. It can incorporate a smaller segment of sidewalk on its own for the TASA.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Fred, to answer your question about the green bed paving, just so you know, we do work with DEP. We talk about means and methods of how we're gonna pave stream beds, and we need to get a permit to do that as well from DEP. So we work with the environmental agency on that. Just wanted to clarify that for the group today.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comment? If
This
not,
is Brandon.
thanks.
Sorry, that's okay.
Oh, Brandon.
This is just to clarify, Freda's comment about, the two applications that were showed, the one for the tip submission, like tip recommendations versus the TASA. The TASA is a statewide program, so any awards made through that would be additional money to the upcoming tip. So but one of the reasons why we have more than one form for that, but just thought I'd say that. Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon. If there's no other public comment, I do want to thank the Summit Township Supervisors for allowing us to host here. The next TAC meeting is on August 13th. Is that down at EMTA?
Yes.
And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
There we go. You know, I tell people like legislation.
Yeah.
Can you get a meal? And it comes over and it's not cooked properly, what do you do?